A Korean jetliner is apparently shot from the sky, and America responds with shock and outrage. And here at home, an area woman is believed to be one of those aboard the jet, the victim of the Soviet attack.
Also ahead, Troy talks about plans to develop the downtown area, and in Waterville East, city officials decide to let the issue of murky water settle.
It's all next on 13 News Tonight.
News is next on WNYT Albany.
The Soviets tracked the commercial airliner for some 2.5 hours. A Soviet pilot reported visual contact with the aircraft at 1812 hours. The Soviet plane was, we know, in constant contact with its ground control. At 1826 hours, the Soviet pilot reported that he fired a missile and the target was destroyed.
Secretary of State George Shultz could barely control the rage in his voice today as he gave the United States' account of just what happened to the Korean jetliner that was apparently shot from the sky. Shultz told reporters the U.S. reaction to the Soviet attack was one of revulsion. He went on to say he could see no excuse for what he called an appalling act. Late this afternoon, presidential spokesman Larry Speakes went before reporters to say President Reagan had decided to cut short his vacation. Mr. Reagan will return to Washington Saturday, where he will meet with his National Security Council and with top congressional leaders on Sunday. The purpose of the meetings will be to discuss possible retaliation against the Soviet action. Craig?
The outrage expressed by Secretary Shultz and President Reagan was echoed today by representatives and senators of the Northeast. New York Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan called the Soviet attack a barbarous act, which he said would not be forgotten. Senator Leahy of Vermont also had strong words of condemnation for the attack.
I think the shooting down of an unarmed civilian plane is an outrageous, despicable, cowardly, murderous act.
New York Congressman Jerry Solomon was angered and said while he doesn't think the United States should pursue economic sanctions at this time, he does feel the United Nations should step in with some type of action.
Specifically, we ought to call them in. The UN, which constantly supports the Russians, they ought to put their foot down. They ought to say to the Russians, if you're going to have this kind of acts throughout the world, then no country is going to do business with you. And that's exactly what ought to be done.
But Congressman Sam Stratton via 13 News Satellite said economic sanctions are about the only recourse we have, and he says this proves we can't trust Russia.
This ought to convince anybody that any country that would take this kind of savagery, uncivilized action in the situation of this kind, certainly we should be very careful in our dealings.
And along with the outrage, there was grief for a loved one lost aboard the Korean jetliner. Muriel Cole, a Loudonville psychotherapist, was listed among the passengers on the plane bound for Seoul. Chris Kapostasy talked with Muriel Cole's husband this afternoon.
39-year-old Muriel Cole of Loudonville wasn't even supposed to be on the Korean Airlines flight. When her husband saw her Tuesday, she was heading to a businesswomen's convention in San Francisco. But at the last minute, she agreed to be an alternate at a health conference in Tokyo. Michael Cole, an Albany dentist, was at his office this morning when he was shocked by a call from the State Department.
The plane was definitely down. It had been down by a MiG-23, supposedly, with an air-to-air missile, and they thought the chances of survival were minimal.
Tonight, he's trying to understand what seems to him a senseless Soviet action.
Are you angry?
Oh, that's a mild statement. Angry? Yes.
What should the United States do?
Being a basic, simple citizen, I don't know what the heck the United States should do, except I wouldn't give me any more wheat, that's for damn sure. I wouldn't give me more technology.
Muriel Cole was a psychotherapist and had worked for the state education department until injuries from a car accident forced her retirement a few years ago. But she remained involved in the women's movement and health issues, working with Governor Cuomo and Bella Abzug. Chris Kapostasy, 13 News in Loudonville.
And tonight, Michael Cole said he is considering filing a lawsuit against the Soviet Union and the Korean Airlines. Renowned San Francisco lawyer Marvin Belli said he has been contacted by Cole. Tomorrow, Belli says he hopes to file suit in federal court in New York, seeking $50 million in punitive damages and $1 million in general damages.
And tonight, the State Department is saying none of the 265 passengers aboard the plane survived the attack. There were at least 30 Americans aboard. About 15 of those were from New York. President Reagan has ordered all U.S. flags at all federal installations to be flown at half-staff. The Soviets are saying very little about the incident so far. In fact, Soviet officials are still not even admitting that the Korean jetliner was shot down. Soviet news agency TASS has been playing down the whole episode, saying only that an unidentified aircraft violated Soviet airspace twice Thursday, that Soviet fighters tried to help it land, directing it to the nearest airfield. But the intruding plane did not react to signals and warnings from Soviet fighters, and the plane continued to the Sea of Japan. No mention was made of the Korean jetliner being fired on or shot down. At 11:30, immediately following our newscast, NBC will have a special report on the Korean jetliner and what the incident could mean for U.S.-Soviet relations.
And elsewhere tonight in Israel, the Herut Party has made its choice. Yitzhak Shamir has been chosen to replace Prime Minister Menachem Begin, who has announced his resigning. If Shamir can put together a coalition, it's likely he will continue Begin's tough nationalist policies.
Head on 13 News tonight, settling the water issue in Watervliet.
And the number of hazardous waste hotspots grows, so stay with us.
13 News tonight, brought to you in part by Albany Savings Bank, the Savings People Bank, committed to you.
The city of Watervliet tonight is assuring people that dirty water is getting cleaner. Tonight, the city council discussed the water problem. After tests by Fraser Engineering of Rensselaer, they discovered the discoloration is still coming from the corrosion inside very old water pipes. Over the years, the water has been eating away the inside lining of the pipes. When the city recently flushed the entire water system, more of the sediment from inside the water pipes was stirred up. It appears for some people the problem goes away during the morning but returns in the afternoon. Still, city tests show the problem is slowly going away. After council decided nothing else could be done, the meeting was adjourned. But then some angry residents spoke out. One is Republican mayor candidate Jerry Maston. He produced an item of clothing he said was washed between 6 and 7 o'clock this evening. Another resident, Mike Calcone, admonished Mayor Leo O'Brien for not flushing out the pipes annually.
Do you intend replacing any water mains?
I'm not an engineer, and I have to listen to an engineer.
You have your engineer.
Right, and the engineer says now that we've experienced the problem, you should have a flushing at least once a year. Prior to that time, it was not necessary to do. You don't disturb something that's working well. The only time you work on something, you don't tear your car apart when it's working well. You tear your car apart to fix it when it's not working.
You give your car a tune-up what needs it before you have a problem with it.
Tune-up we've been doing right along.
Mayor O'Brien says the city will continue to monitor the water, and he says he hopes by flushing the system annually, the discoloration problem will be solved. Nancy?
Craig, the list of the nation's worst toxic hotspots is piling up. The Environmental Protection Agency added 133 waste sites to his list, making them eligible for the government's Superfund cleanup program. Added to that list from New York is a 40-mile stretch of the Hudson River where an estimated 500,000 pounds of PCBs were discharged. Also listed was a aluminum casting facility in Messina, where PCBs were also dumped. However, EPA officials are warning people this doesn't mean the bulldozers will show up tomorrow. State officials say being on the list doesn't guarantee getting any money. New York State will soon be handing out $4 million in new research money to help battle the deadly disease AIDS. Governor Cuomo today announced the formation of an 8-member panel of doctors who will study requests for the funds and then decide who will get the research money. The new scientific panel will begin asking for research proposals by mid-September and begin awarding funds by January 1st. Businessmen in the Albany area will be seeing a big influx of some unusual currency for the next few days if the local NAACP has its way. It's a campaign to show just how important the black population is when it comes to buying and selling. Steve Scoville has the story.
$2 bills like these should be showing up in stores all over the Capital District during the next few days. It's part of a nationwide campaign by this country's black population to show their clout in the marketplace. All of this comes at the urging of Dr. Benjamin Hooks, the National Executive Director of the NAACP. He wants businesses around the country to feel the economic strength of the black community, like here in Albany. And the Albany chapter of the NAACP is urging the capital city's 16,000 blacks to go to their banks and turn in their dollar bills for $2 bills and Susan B. Anthony dollar coins. The plan to use only those two hapless forms of currency so businessmen will know when they count their money at the end of the day that a good portion of their sales can be attributed to blacks. The purpose of the so-called Black Dollar Days
is to open up more jobs and business opportunities for our people without resorting to boycotts of businesses or engaging in selective buying campaigns.
It's estimated that blacks spend $150 billion a year in the U.S., but the NAACP says they do not receive their fair share of business opportunities, like jobs, where they spend their money. After the dollar days, a survey will be put together.
Based on that, we will make an assessment of the amount of money that was spent during that time, and also emphasize to the businesses that the blacks are purchasing from them.
Leaders of the Black Dollar Days say the blacks will be turning in their March on Washington shoes for the $2 protest money. But they say this does not mean that economic boycotts or even another March on Washington has been ruled out. Those tactics will be used if necessary. Steve Scoville, 13 News Tonight, Albany.
Some sections of downtown Troy are going to be historically renovated. Tonight at a special meeting, the Troy Urban Renewal Agency named Charles DeSev the preferred developer for the $6.5 million redevelopment plan for the downtown area. DeSev wants to rehabilitate 9 downtown buildings.
We intend to make the maximum use of the historic features of the buildings, as well as creating completely amenable, comfortable, modern amenities in all of them. So the office space will have the character that you don't find in the new buildings that are thrown out.
DeSev also plans to purchase and rehabilitate the old YMCA building. It once contained many city offices. Before DeSev stepped in, the YMCA was going to be raised for a parking lot.
The job of mayor of Albany is now a sure thing for Thomas Whalen, at least until 1985. Today, the State Court of Appeals put that question to rest when it ruled that when Whalen had succeeded the late Mayor Corning, he took the office for the remainder of Corning's term. Even though Whalen had called for an election in November, the ruling still suited his purpose, to avoid a Republican challenge in 1984.
On the horizon that there would be, that Ronald Reagan might be the candidate, that he might be elected and might carry in local officials with him. There are various areas there that would be considerations.
Now the next question is, will Whalen run in 85? The mayor says he won't make a decision this year, but indications are he's leaning in that direction. Whalen says if everything is going well, he could be delighted to run.
And ahead on 13 News Tonight, a summer-like end to summer's end.
Herb Stevens has the Labor Day weekend forecast when we come back. We made it through August. It's September 1st, and a I can't even say it. Meteorological, I knew it. You told me not to say that.
A lot of people consider Labor Day the end of their fun time summer. Well, yeah. September 1st is actually the start of meteorological fall.
There, he said it.
The end of meteorological summer is August 31st, and a lot of our viewers have friends in New York City. This turned out to be the warmest, second warmest summer, June, July, and August in New York City in 114 years of keeping records. We also have some information on how warm this past month has been here in the Capital District. Let's take a look at the slide. 1983 worked out slightly, and I mean slightly above normal as far as the temperature is concerned. You can see the two figures there. Rainfall just barely above normal, 3.41 inches, and the percentage of possible sunshine also worked out to be just slightly above average. So on the whole, it was an average August in the Capital District. Right now we have clear skies overhead, 64 degrees. The relative humidity is 69%. The barometer rising from 30.06, and the wind right now is from the west at about 8 miles per hour. And what a night it is outside, a great night for sleeping. Temperatures are dropping off steadily with clear skies and low dew points. We have a good situation for radiational cooling. Temperatures now in the 50s in northern sections of the state. Some of the sheltered areas of the southern Catskills or southern Adirondacks and the Catskills also dropping off. But down to our south, temperatures are basically in the 60s, but everyone is going to enjoy a very pleasant night for sleeping. Now, earlier today, we had a high of 80 degrees right on the nose. The low was 60 degrees. The normals are 78 and 55, so we were slightly above normal today, and there was no rainfall. A satellite picture from late this afternoon showed the clear slot from New England all the way back into the Plain States. You'll notice a batch of clouds in Canada, in western Ontario, and another batch down from Virginia into Dixie, where there was plenty of rain today. Now, as we put the sequence in motion, notice the clouds try to make progress to the north, but they fail, and the clouds to our north continue to move to the east. We'll take one more quick look at that, and you can see this ridge of high pressure is protecting us, and it doesn't look like any significant cloudiness is going to come our way for, probably 48 hours. However, we're going to have another problem. It's going to get hot. This high pressure center is going to move on to the east. Right now, it's circulating cool and dry air into our district. But once it gets onto our east with a clockwise flow, the wind's going to shift into the southwest. Some of the heat that's out in the plains right now is going to come our way. It's already setting records, many records. 104 in Williston, North Dakota today, 106 in Pierre, South Dakota, and oddly enough, we had a record low in Miami today, a frigid 71 degrees when a thunderstorm passed through this afternoon. But most of the country will enjoy a dry weekend with high pressure dominating. The system we see in the northwest is going to go by very slowly to our north, but that won't happen until Labor Day, and that's the first significant chance we have for thunder showers over the weekend. Let's take a look at the details of the forecast. The rest of the night should be beautiful. Clear skies, a little chillier than we have had recently. There will be some foggy areas toward morning as well. The low 48 to 53. Tomorrow it's going to be warm, it's going to be sunny, and the wind is going to start to pick up out of the southwest, and that means some of the warm air is going to start coming back our way. The highs will be 81 to 86. Tomorrow night, a fair night, sky-wise, and seasonable temperatures, 53 to 58. And on Saturday, not we have some heat, we'll have some humidity, and that means a few garden variety afternoon thunder showers may pop up, but general showers that just about everyone can count on. I think we'll get through Sunday without that threat. Monday, it may be a little wet around here, but it's going to be muggy right through the weekend.
Well, it may be a meteorological, I said it, end of the season, but it sounds like Mother Nature is still hanging on.
Summer-type weather is certainly going to hang on right through the weekend.
Sounds like it. Thank you, Herb.
Okay. Head in sports, Max got the latest on the U.S. Open and those tight baseball races.
And as the season winds down, another tremendous crowd at Heritage Park. Watch the A's win again. Stay with us.
Jimmy and Martino were the big stars today at the U.S. Open. Here's Mac.
You're not going to say Martina's last name?
No, Navratilova. Watch our lips.
Magical Martina, that's fine.
Okay. Connors, it's tough time with that name. Will you hear some of these names? Connors breezed past Thomas Hugstead of Sweden today, and it took Martina exactly 39 minutes to wipe out. Are you ready? Almasi Raponi Longo of Argentina. It takes longer to say the name than it does watch the match. As for Connors, he scored 6-1, 6-2, 6-3. He won 9 of the first 10 before the European ever got on track. Connors says he likes playing in New York.
You know, the people get involved and they get you revved up to play good tennis. You know, fortunately or unfortunately, these people are just, you know, they have every sport that you want here, and they know about it. They know they want to see two guys go out and kill themselves for them.
As for Martina, she had herself a laugher. She didn't just beat Miss Longo. She conducted a regular clinic, carved her up like a Christmas turkey. Scores were 6-1, 6-love. This was never a contest. Only one big upset today, and that Chris Everett Lloyd's husband, John, beat 10th seeded Jose Higueras 6-3, 6-4, 7-5. In baseball today, after 8 straight wins, the Baltimore Orioles found out how the other half lives. Toronto beat them with Doyle Alexander. The score was 5-3. Jesse Barfield killed him. He homered here off Jimmy Palmer early to make it 2-0 into the left field bleachers. Baltimore came back, down by a run in the 4th. John Lowenstein clutch base hit to right field. That brings in Cal Ripken, and the game is tied at 2-all. But in the bottom of the 4th, Toronto struck again. This time, Ernie Witt. He, too, homers off Palmer. Solo shot to right. That made it 3-2. And that wasn't all in that inning. Here's Barfield again. Another home run. This one a 2-run shot to left. Barfield is so hot. He now has 5 homers in as many games. Elsewhere in the league, Detroit 5-0 over Texas, so they pick up a full game. 6-hitter for Jack Morris. He becomes the major's first 18-game winner. Yankees Oakland scoreless after 2 innings. Righetti against Quattroli. Chicago doing it again, 6-0 over Kansas City, the game in the 7th. Minnesota beat Boston in the first to 11-0. In the second game, Boston back to win it smartly, 9-3. In the National League, Houston 3-0 over Pittsburgh. Ryan won number 13. He K10. Philadelphia 4-2 over San Francisco. So Philly pulls into a tie with Pittsburgh for top spot in the East. Montreal over LA today, 8-3, and St. Louis 8-3 over Atlanta. Identical scores. So the Dodgers really lose no ground, but Montreal closes to within a half game of the leaders in the East, and it's only September 1st. In the Eastern League tonight, take a look at this crowd at Heritage Park. Somewhere around 9,000 on hand to see Albany win the first of 2 from Nashua, 4-3 in extra innings. Here's how they did it. Tie game, 8th inning, Pisnarski singles to left. He was 2 for 4 in this one, by the way. Then Romano followed with a single to right, with Pisnarski digging on into third base. That brought the infield in. And Ron Harrison right up to the plate, and he promptly sent a single right over second base to plate Pisnarski with the gamer. Mike Lyons got the win in relief. In the nightcap, Albany losing 6-3. They're in the 6th inning. One of hockey's great names called it a career today. He's Ray-Jean Houle, and he spent 11 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens. First round of the BC Open today at Endicott. Mark O'Meara, the leader, he shot a 6 under par 63. Well, this morning at 7 o'clock, workmen began pouring concrete for the new ice rink at RPI's Fieldhouse. It's just one step in a $2.5 million renovation that's been going on for months and months now. John Miles has a look at the changes.
The new concrete floor requires 28 days to set, so it was poured just in time for RPI's first hockey practice October 1st. It's a larger floor than the previous one. At 85 by 200 feet, it's now the standard size hockey rink used in the U.S. and Canada. The floor has also been lowered 30 inches to provide better sight lines from the stands. In addition, those support beams, which have long blocked the view from 2,000 seats, are coming out. Coming in will be more fans.
We're adding a net, for a hockey set of approximately 400 seats. We'll have 5,304 permanent seats in the configuration. We'll probably be able to seat up to 5,500 for a hockey game.
Add to the list a new roof, restrooms, and concession stands, as well as doubled lighting power. And the old Houston Fieldhouse will be a welcome new house for RPI hockey fans. In Troy, John Miles, 13 Sports.
From hockey to basketball, Kareem Jabbar, number 33 in blue here, will probably re-sign with the Lakers. He's a free agent now, but a spokesman for Jabbar said today he will probably accept a new 2-year deal worth $3 million plus incentives. Jabbar also had been sought after by Atlanta and Chicago, and his agent's crying about it. He doesn't think it's enough.
Oh, poor agents.
No picnic out there. Well, next on 13 News Tonight, a pretty penny, speaking of that, paid for the pass. Don't go away.
They look like articles from a magical mystery tour. Ties, pianos, machines. But in London, they sold like hotcakes as Beatlemania went to the block.
At Sotheby's Rock and Roll auction, the old piano John Lennon used to write A Day in the Life went for $16,000. Beatle items were hot. This Beatles gumball machine went for $600. John Lennon items were hotter still.
Selling for £400.
A silk tie Lennon once wore, $365. The handwritten lyrics to Lennon's Imagine brought $9,000 from these buyers who said only they were snapping up Beatle memorabilia for display in Japanese department stores. In the end, they spent $30,000. But amid all those big spenders, Vivian Kiss, lifelong Beatles fan from Rockland, California, got just what she wanted for $330, this autographed Beatle photo. And she was more than willing to talk about her purchase. Were you prepared to pay any more to get this picture?
I think it was kind of high, but it's once in a lifetime. I don't care.
Don Porter, NBC News, London.
If I had an artifact from Beatlemania, I would not sell it.
There you go.
I would hold on to it. That's our late report. I'm Craig Alexander.
I'm Nancy Cozean. Just ahead, an NBC special report on the Korean jetliner shot from the sky.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow night at 6.